Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here. Your story is amazing, and I'm just so keen to share it with everybody. It really is inspiring, and I feel like I was just so grateful when I reached out to you that you were willing to come on and share your amazing knowledge. And I know today you're going to be sharing your 3 keys to becoming unstoppable. So, would you be able to start from the place of your dream and of I know that you had this huge, amazing dream to build a business, and that's kind of when everything started to tumble down. I would love if you could start there and just share a little bit about your journey of becoming unstoppable in that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll give you, it's a long story here, but I'll give you the
That's totally
snippets
fine.
and the pieces. So I guess it all started with me back having an early midlife crisis. Basically, woke up in a life that was totally, I built that life, but it was somebody else's. It was not my dreams. It was not anything close to my heart. And I was kind of living by what society sort of tells you should do. You should either build a business or climb the ladder and buy the house and have the
Mm,
things, and then eventually you'll be able to, you know, retire, and then you get to have fun and live your life. And so I was on that path, but I had woke up with all the things and I was still like massively unfulfilled, not happy at all. And I think we all hear that voice. It's like, oh, we're meant for more. And it's this calling for more. It's this calling for, purpose and passion and direction. And I just felt like I was sort of bumbling around.
mhm.
So I knew I needed to do something about it because I was just so unhappy. I was in a very unhealthy relationship. I was drinking a lot. Like it was not a good scene. And so I basically just said, okay, well, I'm going to follow the one thing that I know I absolutely love. Because asking yourself, like, what's your ultimate purpose, or all the dreams and everything can be overwhelming. So I was just like, okay, what's the one thing I just know? And I knew I wanted to travel. I had this book with me all the time, and I would look at it and I'm like, oh, I marvel at all these destinations and the cultures and everything. And I hadn't gone to any of them, right? And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to pick one of these destinations. I'm going to buy a one-way plane ticket and I'm just going to figure it out. And that's what started
Wow.
me on this entire path to where I am now. 6 years later, I'm still traveling. So,
That's amazing. Wow. Okay, so what happened um but when you got to your destination? Where were you exactly? What was the one place you chose?
yeah, so I flew into Bangkok and was there for a while. And then, gosh, I can't even remember where. Actually, Malaysia was next. And then went to Malaysia. And then that's when my accident happened. Um, and yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into that as well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would love to hear if you're okay to go into it and just share a little bit about what it was like experiencing having the accident happen and what kind of what it was like going from such having this huge dream to suddenly not feeling like that might be the route, sending your life take going off in a different route.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So basically, I had been researching before I left, and I was like, okay, well, there's people making money online, so there has to be some way that I can do this. I had always owned businesses up until then. I'd always been an entrepreneur, but like a brick and mortar, you go to the shop, you have the employees come, you have the office type of thing. And I was like, wow, this is intriguing that people can just make money from their laptop. And I necessarily didn't believe like 100%. I was like, wait, this is this easy, everyone would be doing this, right? And so anyway, I was diving into all of those pieces as I was traveling in Thailand and then Malaysia. And I had picked me and my partner, he was with me at the time, and we had picked to open up an e-commerce store. And I was like, okay, well, before I get into building this new business, because as we all know, it takes effort and time and work to do that, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this meditation retreat. And I went to a Vipassana retreat for 14 days, and I had meditated for like 12 hours a day when I was there, which was amazing. And I came out feeling so on purpose, so ready to do it, so ready to step into building this business. And literally the next day was my birthday. It was my 32nd birthday. And I had woke up blind in the morning, which was crazy. I had no clue what was happening to me. I just, like, my eyes were on fire and I had them open. I knew I had them open, and it was black. Everything was black.
What was your first thought during that time?
I don't know. I don't remember the thoughts. I just knew that my body was in such a shock state. I was shaking uncontrollably, and like it was super painful. And my boyfriend was like, we thought, well, I got something in my eye. Like, I got something in my eye, and we were thinking about what we were eating the night before, and if I were like rub my eye with some food or something. So he called his family and they were like, go get milk. And so he's squeezing milk in my eyes, and it was just crazy. And then finally we called my friend, and she came to get us, and we went to the emergency room because it was like, 30 minutes later and I'm still like freaking out. So I went to the emergency room, and they did their thing, and they told me that, anyway, I was misdiagnosed. We won't go into all that when I was in Malaysia, but basically they told me, like, get to the US immediately. This is an issue. You need to be seen by specialists. And so I took an emergency flight back to the US and went to Boston General Hospital, which has the best cornea specialists. It's like the number 2 hospital in the US for this. And they didn't have a clue what was happening to me. So I became their science experiment over the next 8 months. They were literally flying people in from LA, from Europe, from other countries, other scientists, and I was in and out of the hospital. Like, I might as well have just lived there for the next 8 months. It was crazy.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
can't imagine what that must have been like.
Yeah, it was scary. But the thing is though, through all of that, and we'll get into that, and that's like kind of the steps on how I discovered, how to do the impossible, how to still stay the course, even though things in your life externally seem to be going pretty chaotic. That was a hurricane of an event. But I had a decision in that moment, right? It was a decision to say, well, when they were telling me, hey, Tiffany, it's likely you'll never be able to see again, I was like, that's not an option for me. Okay. So I'm like, I'm not accepting, believing, and surrendering to this outcome that you tell me. And I started to search online and started to listen to other people who have healed themselves from crazy things. And I was like, wow, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. So I kept telling them, no, I'm going to heal myself. And they would brush me off. And every time I would go in there, I actually started to heal, and they were blown away. They were like, what are you doing? And I told them all the things, meditation, visualization, these affirmations. And they were just like, oh yeah, whatever. They still don't believe it to this day. I just had a visit with them 3 years later, and they're like, they've called in all the doctors to look at me because they're like, they don't understand what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. They've never seen it before. So yeah, it was crazy, but I had to make that decision. Like, okay, do you want that reality, or what's the reality that you want? And hold that vision so close to me throughout that process that that's the only thing I saw. And so I aligned everything with the outcome of healing. How I spoke, how I showed up every day. I was still operating the same way as if I could see. A lot of my family members, they didn't know how bad it was, because they would see me like doing the dishes and doing things even though I couldn't see, and they weren't understanding, like, oh, to the level and the extent of what it really looked like. And so yeah, just keep holding that vision really close to me. I mean, I was getting up every single day. I was meditating for hours. I was visualizing for hours that possibility. And I said, okay, well, what else am I going to do? Because I wanted something else. I was like, okay, what is the dream that I set out to do before this? And it was to build the e-commerce business and to still travel the world. And I said, whatever outcome happens, I'm still going to do this no matter what.
Wow.
And then I just kept going.
I can't stop saying wow. I'm just,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you're at this point where you're like, okay, I'm just going to just do it. Like no matter what, it doesn't matter like whether I can see, whether I can't see, it doesn't matter what my health is like, I'm still going to pursue my dreams like in the way that they were before, not even altering them. Or okay, but I won't be able to do as much travel. You were like, I still want to travel the world. Is that right?
Yeah. And when I got a little bit of the eyesight back, I told the doctor, I was like, am I done? Have I graduated? I'm leaving. I've already bought a ticket. And they were like, what are you saying? And I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. And I actually flew right back to Malaysia and stayed at the same place that I stayed at when that had happened to me. And people were like, oh my gosh, like it was crazy. So everyone around me kind of thought that I was nuts, granted, like, oh my God, my family was freaking out. But I had to teach them as well, like, don't come up to me and be like, oh, so you're blind. I had to teach them. I was like, no, I'm not actually. So we're not even going to have that discussion because I can see perfectly. And my language around it, every piece of me in my life was still that way. They would tell me, don't go out and walk on your own because you're not used to that and what's going to happen to you and that's not safe. And I was like, no, I'm not going to live in fear through this. And it's a decision. And when I released the fear, I could hear the voice telling me everything was going to be okay. But if I had surrendered to the fear, I would have a very different reality today. I would probably still not be able to see again, because that is a lot of people's reality that happens to, is they still can't see years later and they never get it back. So, but if the fear was there and present and I accepted that, then I wouldn't have heard that voice that kept guiding me, which was my intuition. Okay. Here, do this thing, do the visualization. My intuition was literally leading me to all the pieces necessary to help me heal. The books that I listened to, the mentors and the guides and the proof in that time that showed up in my life came because I was open to receive it, because I wasn't living in fear. So even though there was fear there, I didn't accept it. I just said, hi, we're going to put you to the side for now. And I'm going to go over this way instead. And you're going to come along with me and everything's going to be fine. So I sort of had to be the master in that situation of my everything, thoughts, beliefs, the crazy talk that was happening in my mind. I had to nip that quickly. Otherwise, it could have spiraled downward very easily in that time.
Absolutely. That is, just so incredible that you were able to do that. And what makes me just so amazed about your story is how you didn't just try. And although trying in itself is noble and amazing, you actually succeeded beyond what anybody thought was possible, not only in regaining your eyesight, but I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how your business went during that time and how you built your business, your dream and your travel, even though it seemed like at one point there was no way you were going to be able to do that. Right. Well, from what other people were saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, it was a choice, right? So in that moment, I could have said, yeah, I can't see and I can't do the things. And I was like, no, actually, we're going to put the handicap on the computer. We're going to figure out the apps. I'm going to learn how to type and hear it come back to me. And so I don't have to see. I can get on the phone with people and call the distributors, just somebody dial the number for me. So it was like, yes, I still needed some support from outside. And of course, all the technical pieces my partner built in the background, he built the website, he did all those things. Although I would have found a way to do it even if he wasn't there. But I was more of the front end, making those relationships, getting the distributors on board, finding the niches, finding the products. And it was just a decision again. So it was kind of like, well, I could just sit around and pray and hope and wish, for a different result, or I can take the action that I know to take today. And it was moment by moment, Sarah, like literally, because going through that, I had patience. Everything was so slow, as you could imagine, like trying to type and hear it back. And I'm like used to just, like it was a completely different way of being. And I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons was just patience. Your dreams sometimes won't manifest overnight. And I think that's how I'm able to go at them so steadily nowadays, instead of like frantically like working 18 hours a day. It's like, okay, this is your life's work. This isn't, it's going to happen in a moment. Right. And I think patience was a huge piece of the puzzle for me to have with myself. And that was a learning lab. I think it was a really big learning lab to get to know myself, my own self-imposed limitations that I had to break through over and over again. But building that business, it had its ups and downs too, because it was new. We didn't know how to do any of it. And we were listening to the podcasts, we were listening to trainings and everything on how to do that. And we were just filling our mind with the belief, right? We were listening to all the people who had owned e-commerce stores and were successful. And we were installing the belief that it was possible for us. If it's possible for these people, it's possible for anybody. And so just one day at a time, one moment at a time, one action at a time. And over the course of, I think it was 14 months, we hit over 7 figures in sales, which
I mean, crazy. What? You have the lowest low that a lot of people can imagine, right? Losing your eyesight. And to do that, not only keep the hope and the faith, but actually succeed in healing yourself along the way and create like a 7-figure business in sales. I mean, that just blows my mind. That's like the definition of achieving the impossible to me. I think you're such an inspiration.
Oh, thank you. And like the hurricanes come in our life, like those big chaotic moments. And even if it's not like going blind in Malaysia, right? It could mean breaking up with somebody you truly love, or it could mean, maybe you lost a best friend, or you didn't make the amount of money that you really truly desired that month. Whatever is that storm for you, no matter how we want to rate it big or small, they're all the same. They're all teaching us this lesson. They're all guiding us towards the bigger purpose. It's all in service. So I firmly believe everything happens for us. And I see so clearly now, looking back, it led me to what I do now, which is to coach and to train and to help people activate that energy we all have inside of us, that power. We are so more powerful than we could ever imagine. We come from the same energy that creates universes. I mean, to be able to tap into that is what I did along my journey to have these results that I have in my life. And I didn't give up. I'm not going to say it was all roses. There were days where I didn't feel like doing the work, but I always asked myself, if you don't do the work, what's going to be the result? If you don't visualize today, it's going to be easier for you tomorrow not to do it. And then the next day. So I would follow the trail of not taking the action. And then I would look and say, okay, I'm going to follow the trail of pushing through this moment when I don't feel like showing up. And it always led to me feeling better, because when we can think our dreams are manifested, we feel amazing. When you think you're downward spiraling in the other way, you don't feel so good. So follow the feel good, and that's what I did through the whole process, even though sometimes it wasn't easy.
I love that. Oh, I mean, okay, so what I'm really excited about now is that you're going to be able to teach us the lessons of exactly how you that you learned from these ups and downs that you took in your journey, and you're going to share with us exactly how we can apply those lessons that you learned into our lives. So I'm really excited to dive in into the keys, the 3 keys for becoming unstoppable that you have so amazingly shared with us already, or it was shared with me, and I'm keen to share with everybody. So let's start and talk about how to design a crystal clear vision, because I know that that's something that you had to hold really, really dear to you in order to continue having the hope and the faith and continue taking action every day. So how do we create that? How do we design that crystal clear vision, and why is it important?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's important because that's your GPS. That's like what you're programming. That's what you want to, the vision is what you align all the other pieces to. If we don't have a clear vision, then, we could get in the car. It's like, it's getting in the car and telling the GPS to take us somewhere magical. And the GPS takes us to the beach, but yet our version of magic was the mountains, hiking in the mountains. And you get there and you're disappointed, but it's like, well, no, you needed to tell the GPS to take you to a magical spot in the mountains. And I see so many of my clients who come to me who are frustrated with where they're at. They've designed a business that isn't, because they weren't crystal clear. They saw Susie making 50K a month, right? And then they went and followed what she did, but then they didn't think about what they actually wanted, what was going to make them happy, how they wanted their lifestyle to look like. And a lot of people's businesses, the business models don't support their lifestyle. So it's like they don't work together, they bang against each other, and it causes friction and frustration and resistance. And it's like battling yourself the whole entire way. So to get clear, and it may take a little while to get that clarity. And I think through action, we also get even more clarity, right? So it's like when I first started my coaching business, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to help people. And as I started to get clients, I got even more clear about what I actually wanted to help them with. And then now I'm like, then I became a certified high performance coach. And so it's just, it always morphs, it always evolves, but we have to start somewhere with at least one vision, right? Which is what I started with when I sold everything and I followed the one thing I knew was going to light me up, was to travel. And then all the other pieces sort of the clarity on the other things came in as I flew there, as I started researching online. How do I make money? So obviously, if I want to travel, I need to be able to support myself making money online. So then the research came in, and then, it just snowballed from there. So I think where it starts is asking yourself those questions about, what do I want my lifestyle to be? I think this is so important piece people miss when they're thinking about the goal, the money goals or the business goals or all those things. It's like, okay, that's great, but we want them both to work in conjunction. And that's when you thrive. That's when you feel charged. When they don't work together, that's when it's just a frustrating journey. And all the patients in the world will never bring a different result in those cases. And so it takes unpacking and doing the work to sit down with your journal or put the video on and just record yourself. Ask yourself, what lights me up? Like what gets, if I could do anything in the world and I didn't need any money, if I had $1 billion in the bank, right? Like what would I be doing every day? How would I feel on a daily basis? And then I think also what you could ask yourself is, what am I afraid to do? Because fear is like that GPS showing you the next steps, showing you that breadcrumb to follow. Because if you're afraid of that thing, then that's the thing you actually really want to be doing, right?
I love that so much. One of our other guest experts, Matheson, he says that if somebody handed him a book of all his fears, he says his job would be to open it to page 1 and start working on doing them, start working on attacking those fears with, that's the direction he needs to go. So I love that. That's so awesome.
And it's so true, right? It's like Lewis Howe talks a lot about that too. He's another one of my mentors, and it's so true. So I think even more so though too, we want to make sure you understand how you want to feel every day, because that's a really big part. We're emotional creatures. We're driven by energy and emotion. And we're never after the bank account. We're never after the house. All those goals are great, but we're striving for the feeling we're going to get when we achieve that thing.
Right.
So if we can ask ourselves how we want to feel and start to live into that feeling every day, you'll get there so much quicker because you're already giving yourself permission to feel the way you want to feel. And then that's like a lift. That's like the fire that keeps you going through the times that so I think, and as you know, as a high performance coach, it's a holistic approach. If one piece of your life is off balance, like, we want to know how you want your relationships to look like, how you want your circle of friends to be, how you want your everyday life to be, how you want to feel in your body, and all those things, like how you want your finances to look like, they all work together. Because if you have this big bucket over here and your relationships are draining and all the people around you don't support you, it's going to take away energy that could be in all the other areas. It's like a wheel, right? If you have a flat over here, it's like it clunks around. We don't want you clunking around. That's difficult. That also creates resistance. So we want to try to understand and align all the pieces together. And I guess that is ultimately the lifestyle you want to live, or the dream life you want to have. It's a collective of all the pieces, which includes the money, the business, the big impossible goals you want to set, like hiking 7 mountain peaks in a day or something. Like whatever you are after, I think it still matters to look at all those pieces.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I feel like the holistic approach to designing not just a vision isn't just your one impossible goal. It's really about designing your whole life. And I love that. Asking from so many different aspects. How do you want to feel? What do you want it to look like? All of those things. That's so awesome. So then I know that the second key that you've shared with us is how to create certainty around that vision. So what does it actually mean? What do you mean by certainty, and why? How can we get it?
Yeah, this is the piece. This is huge. So creating certainty is about creating confidence. So think about something like when you have certainty, you take massive action towards that thing.
Right.
So if you're certain that, your certainty designs your entire day. So think about it this way. Like if you look up the weather and it's going to rain. I live on the beach here in Mexico. So if I look up the weather and I'm like, okay, 90% chance of rain, I'm certain it's probably going to rain. So am I going to go and pack up my stuff to go to the beach? Probably not. So that certainty that it was going to rain designed my action that I was going to take. So maybe I'm going to stay at home now and just snuggle up on the couch with coffee and a nice book. It designed that next action piece. So if you feel like you're not capable of that dream, if you feel like you're not worthy of it, or, who am I to do this? All those things that come up when we face going through the fear, because likely if you're in here, you're setting impossible goals, which you're going to ignite that fear. You're going to feel afraid to do it. Like you're going to have to work through that. You're going to have to become the master of your mind in order to move through that and allow the fear to be there, dance with it a little bit, and still take the action anyway. How we do that is we create certainty that our goals and dreams are a done deal. We create certainty that we're capable of them, that it's possible for us. And we have to make that part of our identity in order to achieve it. So oftentimes I see people come to me, they're frustrated. They have been working so hard towards this dream. And the first thing I ask them is, well, do you see yourself in that dream? And they're like, no.
That's such a powerful question.
Yeah, because the identity isn't in alignment. If you don't think that you're that person who has the house, or you can't see yourself with that type of bank account, or you can't, see yourself healing yourself and having that level of energy, if you can't visualize that life or picture what that's going to look like and feel it, then it's not going to happen for you. Everything, your subconscious mind is going to throw all the kitchen sink in your way, and it's going to be a painful experience to get there. The journey is going to be a lot harder. So what we want to do is create that certainty, and then it leads to different action. Because if you're certain, yes, this is a done deal for me. Like the weather channel said it's going to be sunny today. I'm certain I'm going to the beach. Like that's what I want to do. So we almost need to make it part of our identity. Well, how do we do that? Right? That's like the next question. The next step. There's so many tools to be able to do this. I use visualization. For the majority of this, I use meditation, I use affirmations. Today, I do a lot of writing my reality. So every morning I'll get up and I'll write out 5 to 10 pages of like what my life is in my next level already. So this is how my life is. Yeah, and then you get activated. You feel like that's who you are. You're making new neurological centers in your brain when you do this stuff. It's peeling away the old you and it's putting the new you in there. And that's what we want to do with all these tools. That's what they all do. I use a mind movie now instead of I also have a stationary vision board, but a mind movie is so much more powerful because it's your life in motion. It's literally a movie of that reality that you want that's on your vision board. So I use a lot of that with my clients, and it's surprising how fast like using the mind movie works. They're making new mind movies like crazy people because they're just manifesting these things because your mind doesn't know the difference between whether something happened or whether you visualized it. So we want to get your mind on board with building those neurological centers that say that's already done for you, because that's going to create certainty. Then your mind isn't scared. Like there won't be a lot of fear there, as much of it as before, because now your mind, there's nothing to be afraid of because it already thinks that's your reality. So it's almost like a hack. It's like a biohack. You're almost tricking your mind into like believing that's the life you already live, even though you don't see it in your reality now. It still is the reality in your mind. The bank account you see now, it doesn't even recognize that because you've done all the repetition in the world to say that there's extra 5 zeros behind the number. And every time you log in, your mind doesn't freak out and say, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills? It says, wow, like I just haven't gotten that deposit yet. And then you take the action in your business. But if you freak out, how am I going to pay the bills? Then you want to go Netflix and chill because you feel stress, you feel anxiety, you feel whatever. And then it creates the different action. So it's so interesting, like how the mind works. And this really needs to be a repetitive process. Like I was saying earlier, I visualize for like hours a day. Because after Malaysia, we were going to go to Chiang Mai in Thailand, and I had seen pictures of what that looked like. And every day I would visualize, and I would just see myself seeing those beautiful, monuments and everything that was there, just the sculptures and everything that was so beautiful to me. I spent hours in my mind saying, I can already see that, and pulling up the pictures and making those new pathways, and releasing the old ones. And that creates certainty. And then that's how I was able to take action, because my mind wasn't battling me every 5 minutes saying, wait a minute, like a 5-year-old, but, no, I mean, I had a few buts, but not a lot of them. So yeah, I mean, and then also too, like finding proof. You can create certainty through proof. So I created certainty for myself that the store was going to be successful because I listened to all successful people that had an online store. If I had found everyone on the planet that failed at that, then my mind would have believed that. So you just need to feed your mind consistently with what you want it to hear, because both those possibilities exist. Not everyone who starts an e-commerce store is successful at it, right? There's a lot of people who don't do the work to push through when it doesn't seem like it's working. But our business didn't work for an entire year. We made $0, and then all of a sudden it was like, no, we kept pushing through, and then it just became boom, 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 and it blew up. But if we stopped in that time, it wouldn't have worked, right? We would have just been another failed business.
Much to hear as well. like, I think what's really, really important, that I'm hearing, just like picking out here, is that you had like a year where it didn't work, and then you weren't like, oh, well, this is clearly it's not for me, right? And you had period of your life where you couldn't see it all, and then you didn't go, well, clearly like seeing isn't for me, just because it wasn't working in that moment. And I just love that so much, because I think that so many of us are seeing our big, huge, impossible goals, and seeing, well, if they're not here right now, that means they don't exist. They don't exist in the world. They don't exist in my life. They don't exist in my future. So I just love the fact that you shared that, it was $0 for a year, and then suddenly everything clicked into place. So that's just waiting for that breakthrough, and keep pushing for that breakthrough. I think that's such an important message.
Yeah, and it was easier to do it because I had the certainty. I was like, okay, no, this is what I'm going to be
Right.
making every month. It just hasn't shown up yet. And that's why it's so important to train your mind to get on board. It's got to support you through the process. Otherwise, it literally won't happen for you if you don't do that practice. And you can also create proof for yourself. Maybe you have an impossible goal that nobody's done yet. Maybe you want to break the, Guinness World Book of Records or whatever, and you want to be the first person to do something. Well, you can still find all the people who have done very similar things or who have broken world records
Mm-hmm.
before. And you can hey, they've broken a world record before. It may not have to be the exact thing, right? And just find yourself proof. I have an entire vision board of people, my mentors and coaches, showing me what's possible for me, right? I look at that every day. I turn the jealousy, because a lot of times people can compare, and why am I not there yet? They're comparing their chapter 1 to their chapter 30. And then it slows them down and they lose momentum. But the thing is I look at that and I say, wow, I have massive gratitude for them pushing through when they didn't see it might work, or when they pushed through all those moments they didn't necessarily want to show up, because now they have that reality, and they've paved the way for me. Like, success leaves clues, and I love to look at it and say, okay, well, how would they show up today?
Success leaves clues. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like what you're talking about, like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? That jealousy turning it into like showing you what's really possible for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And just write a whole folder of why you're amazing, why you're capable, and it's proof. Like, what have you already done up until now in your life? Because it's likely, if you're in here, you've done great things. And remember back to when you pushed through whatever that meant for you and was hard in the moment. Like, what did you do? Like, what did you activate? What were you thinking? How were you being? And remember why you're great. Remember why you're amazing. Remember why you can do this next thing that may seem impossible, because you've already done some pretty significant things up until now. That's just how it works. So you need to get yourself a proof folder, and every time your mind wants to talk crazy to you, you pull the proof folder out and you say, no, I have the proof, because your mind wants evidence. It wants to see something before it will believe it. So it's our job to give it something to see, otherwise it won't believe it. And you'll be battling yourself the whole way. So yeah.
That's so fantastic. Wow. I feel like I've learned so much from you today already. I was wondering if, before we finish up, if you could just share, if you want to, if there's anything that you want to share, just as like, the world needs to know this, if people could just get this into their hands or into their minds, along your journey of what you've learned, or just any last pieces that you have to share before we finish.
Yeah, I would say that not only do you need to have the vision be clear, but you have to understand who you need to be on a daily basis. Because the results you have today are just going to keep recreating themselves unless you pull forward something different. Like, you can't, like, doing the same thing and acting the same way, making the same decisions and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So it's our job, if we have these big goals and dreams, to say, who is that? How do I need to show up today? And how do I need to think? How do I need to act? And how do I need to feel on a daily basis in order to step into already having that be a done deal. And a lot of people miss this piece. They have big goals and dreams, but they keep doing the same action. And that gets frustrating. And it's like, well, you don't see a result because something's out of alignment with how you're showing up. And it's just a decision, right? A lot of people get caught up in like the becoming somebody different, but no, you're already that person inside of you today. And it's just a decision and a choice every morning to align yourself with what that looks like. And it's a very different personal answer for everybody. But if you don't know where to start, go and make yourself that proof vision board of all the people showing you what's possible or that your dream's possible, and ask yourself, what would this person do? There was days when I would get up and be like, okay, what would Wayne Dyer do? You know, he healed himself from cancer. Would he go back to bed and not visualize right now? Or would he take the cold shower and sit down on the mat and do the work? And that's what got me through. Sometimes I had to ask myself that because I wasn't sure, because I had never experienced that before. So you can ask yourself these things and every morning and just be like, who do I have to be today? Who do I have to put forward? How can I make decisions based on the outcome I want instead of what I see in my reality today? And that will march you towards your goals and dreams so much quicker if you can do that.
That's so fantastic. Excuse me. When I discovered this, hearing you share it makes me think, I'm rediscovering it every day. I'm like, yes, this is so good, this stuff. But a similar kind of thing that I discovered was exactly that, is not just stepping into who do you want to be, but sometimes, needing to use other people like Wayne Dyer or somebody else to kind of think, okay, well, what would they do? And then acting from that place. And that's what cured my fear of flying. And I think as well, I've kind of had this idea that I'm completely cured now, and it's always going to, I'm always going to be cured. But I realize it's actually showing up every time I get on a flight, showing up as that person who loves flying, showing up as that person who wants to be on that flight. So I think that's a really important reminder, like showing up every day, like you said, like every day asking yourself, who do I need to be today? I just love that.